What is up, everybody? It's your boy Doody, back again with another video, and this time we're taking a look at our boy DSP's daily rap video after a day of, my lord, Smark Guys. That's right, with special guests all the way from the south of the border. That's right, the menace, Ethan Ralph. That's right, oh my lord, yes. And your boy Doody was out there at the Ethan Ralph's watch party on Rawville. And I gotta say, I probably had the best night's sleep ever. That thing was so boring. My God. Jeez Louise. Man. Phil is such a neutered coward. And the one thing he managed to do is make Ethan Ralph a neutered coward. Anyway, let's get into it.
Good evening, everyone. Phil here, and welcome to the Daily Wrap for what was Thursday, the 27th of March, 2025. A full fun streaming day for me, a day of variety, and I'm curious about your thoughts. I'm going to want feedback for sure. So today we opened up with a very fun, variety-filled Level 1 podcast where I covered a variety of topics, including game news. For example, there were big stories come out of the Nintendo Direct this morning, including Metroid Prime 4 and others. So I covered all of these stories. Plus, in addition to that, we also covered a big story about UBISoft. There was also a nice chill Q&A session at the end of the show. So it was a really good podcast. I had a great time, and I hope that you all enjoyed the show. Now, after that, we started Atomfall.
All right, I'm going to stop it here because I did watch a little bit of the podcast and I saw Phil's take on the Ubisoft announcement. And I seriously don't understand why he even bothers with news. Really, his takes are so boring and he adds no insight whatsoever to the story and what actually happened. He actually believes that Ubisoft is done. They're over. They're liquidating. They're selling off assets, and they're not really doing that at all. They're essentially just selling off stock. Think of it that way. What they're doing is they're allowing Tencent, a Chinese company, to come in, make a cash infusion into their business, and they'll own a bigger percentage of the company. That's really all it is. I mean, think of any other investor just coming in and buying stock in a company. I mean, that's kind of all it was. And they're hurting, yes. They've made a lot of stupid decisions. They've lost a lot of money recently. And the recent Assassin's Creed has been a dud. And that's the reason why this happened. And I'm pretty sure this has been in the works for years. You don't just make an announcement that a company is going to invest several $billion into another company, overnight. This is probably something that's been in the works for a while. And the announcement was made because I'm assuming, being that it is March, there is going to be a stock, the Dow Jones, the New York Stock Exchange, so on. Typically around this time, companies come out and they release their quarterly numbers. And if a company is doing terrible during a specific quarter, the investors want to know, what are you doing to correct this ship? And of course, telling your investors that a several $1 billion in cash is coming in and being infused, and a successful company like Tencent is coming in, that's good news. So their stocks probably won't tumble as bad as they would have if the announcement would have been made. So of course, Phil, that's kind of the analysis you can add. I mean, you could probably do it better than Doody did, but in a nutshell, that's the story, Phil. Not, Ubisoft is collapsing. No, all companies go through this. I mean, especially huge companies like Ubisoft, they're just not going to shut off the lights because they've had a bad couple years. They're not. I mean, Phil's under this belief that gaming companies like Ubisoft, that the only income they receive, or the only income source they have, is selling games. No, Phil, I'm pretty sure Ubisoft has money invested in mobile games. They probably have other investments. They diverse their investments and they make cash from that. Selling video games is just a means of earning cash so that they can probably fund other businesses. I mean, Phil, it's Econ 101, brother. Okay? But of course, he hears this news that, Ubisoft lost, $100 million this quarter or whatever, and Phil automatically thinks, oh, they lost money. That means they're going out of business. Just so rudimentary thinking, no no kind of input whatsoever, and all he's doing is just getting news from Twitter, gauging what the responses are to that news, and then formulating his boring opinion. So I just wanted to state that because he kind of annoyed me with his DSP news segment, because it's not a segment, it's him reading a story and then cherry picking comments and sections of specific stories to fit his narrative. Anyway, whatever, let's keep going.
And in a nutshell, Atom Fall feels like a hybrid between, I would say, Fallout and Stalker. It is nowhere near as tedious as Stalker, meaning you don't need to constantly be popping food and drink, but at the same time, it's not super easy. There's no VATS. The combat is a little bit more complicated than Fallout is. I do like that there's an aspect where you don't have to constantly be fighting. You can kind of sneak around stuff, and that's a major part of the game, is sneaking around areas and not getting detected or aggroing the enemies. So far, so good. Like, I would say for the first 2.5 hours that we played today, I'm enjoying it. The graphics are good on PC. There was one thing that I had an issue with. It was my capture device, though, and once I restarted it, everything worked fine. So, in general, I had a great time with it, and I hope that everyone enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts on the game. The first 2 parts are live on the channel already. We did hit the support goal during that gameplay session, by the way. Then on the late stream, it was Smark Guy's pro wrestling commentary covering SmackDown and Raw with our first of 3 special guest hosts that'll be coming up for the next 3 weeks. The first guest host was Ethan Ralph. Yes, he's infamous. Yes, a lot of people have issue with him. So how did the show go? It went late, but it only went late because we started off with a little bit of banter back and forth talking about various things. We had a lot of shout outs to do from contributions and people who wanted to ask him questions and the like. In general, I feel like the consensus was, at least from those who were there, they liked the appearance. I would definitely say that after around the 2-hour mark, he started to get tired. You could tell he was getting tired on the show, but he still remained on topic. He still had a lot to add. He had a lot to say about pro wrestling while we were doing the commentary parts, and there was some drama and funny parts too. In general, I think the appearance was a successful one. I think people really liked it, and there was an incredible amount of support. We opened 4 packs of Topps cards. I only have 3 left. All right. So likely what I'll have to do is in the next month find another way to get them, because it looks like they're going to be hard to get. Last ones that I bought actually were quite hard to buy. I'll see if maybe I can buy another one now to prepare for future shows, because we are going to have 2 more weeks of special guest hosts on Smark Guys. All right. Now, the show's live over on DSP Reacts. It's already there, live and archived. You can check it out. That's at DSP Reacts on YouTube. I want your feedback. I want to know what you thought about the show. Did you like it? Could it be improved? Did you like Ethan Ralph as a host? Should I consider him for future shows? Give us your feedback in the comments. Your comments will be critical to that show to know what you thought and how I should move forward. All right. But FYI, Smart Guys will continue on Thursday nights for the next 2 weeks, each with a different guest host. And no one knows who the guest hosts are. It's complete bullshit if someone claims they do. It's not anyone who anyone is thinking. Okay? Good. All right.
Okay, so my take on Smart Guys after watching it, like I stated at the very beginning, it was so boring. It was beyond boring. I mean, I'm going to give Ethan a bit of a pass here, because I think Ethan didn't want to scare Phil off, and he actually does want the job. He wants to be the co-host of the show because he does like wrestling. I think I mentioned this before in my podcast. I've actually had a few DM interactions with Ethan Ralph and gave him a little bit of advice. And I'll just say that I won't get too much into the DMs. But he did what he thought he needed to do to get the job. And you can clearly see that the problem with that is that he neutered himself. He was dull, he was boring. Yes, he knew his wrestling, but again, Phil, you have a small population of people that care about the wrestling. The reason why people tuned in last night was to see if Ethan Ralph was going to have a meltdown. The reason why people checked in when you were co-hosting with PPP is because they wanted to see if you were going to lose your mind. Yeah, Phil, I mean, your next guest is probably going to be, it's not going to be Mersh. It's probably going to be Peterson or the other, maybe Mersh. Who knows? It might be Mersh.
Shut the fuck up.
And I know you're coping.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.
That's right. I hope Wings is doing okay out there. Anyway, so I think you're just coping because the information got out there. Now you might try to switch that up. Who the hell knows? No one really cares. But again, it's just going to be boring. Now, to address the issue of money, you got one whale that came out and dropped $100 donation. By the way, it was really funny because that troll, that guy, I mean, actually dumped it on Raw Phil's stream, thinking Raw Phil's stream was the actual stream. He dropped $100 and then he realized it, and then he went to Phil's stream and dropped another $100 and actually said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I dumped this in the wrong in the wrong stream. Or it was pretty funny. Now, what you ended up getting is a bunch of $2 tips, people trolling Ralph. And again, I'm not going to tell people what to do with their money and how to troll and detract or whatever, but he's not going to read it. You know, you're just putting money in his pocket, and he's not going to read it. Now, there were a couple here and there that he read, but it was, you know, it was censored, and it's just pointless. It's kind of dumb, especially when you know that Phil's not going to read it. You're just putting money in his pocket. But anyway, that's besides the point. Yeah, you had a whole bunch of those. I mean, I think I literally counted about 25 of those donations of about $2 to $4 of people just trolling Phil. And then, of course, Argentinian detractors were out there in full force, dropping memberships. The one curious thing, and I knew this beforehand, and I mentioned it, is Ethan Ralph got no money. Literally got no money for this, and Phil offered no money. And when I talked to Ethan Ralph about it, I let him know what the cut was with PPP and Phil. And Ethan didn't know this. And I said, yeah, you know, it's customary that he should at least offer a fee, a flat fee, or he should give you a percentage of the cut. I mean, you are doing the show with him. He's probably going to make some bank that night because you're on. It's the customary thing to do. And he said he would ask him, right? And the funny thing is that it did come up during the podcast. And Phil made it known, no, he will not be getting nothing, and the other co-hosts aren't getting anything. And he made it seem like this is just a trial. Think of this as an unpaid internship, and this that speaks poorly of you, Phil. It really does, because it just shows how greedy you are. And the other thing what it does is it actually confirms John Rambo and Howard. It confirms them, and it confirms their story about them asking for money and you being stingy, and also them recommending that you offer money to the camera crew, the editing crew, the camera crew that was filming Project 7, and how you lied and said, oh, they said they didn't want money, when you never even asked them about the cash or the money, and then you lied about it. It just shows that this man is so greedy. Just a greedy individual that refuses to pay anyone for anything, wants everything for free, and it's pretty fucking slimy. I mean, he made what, $450 last night? He should have went to Ethan and said, "Hey, here's $100. I appreciate you coming out. I didn't expect to make this kind of money. Here's $100. Thank you." I mean, it's a nice gesture, Phil. If I had a guest on and I made bank, the first thing I would do is, as soon as the podcast was over, I'd give them a call. We'd kind of go over what how it went. I would thank them. And then if I didn't offer them money already, which I would say, hey, let me give you something, as a token of my appreciation, as a thanks. If they say no, then fine. Then you say, okay, not a problem. I appreciate it. And if they say, okay, whatever, you could drop whatever, then you give them like $100. I mean, that's what, 20% of your haul, Phil? Come on, man. That's how you build good working relationships. Because Ethan Ralph will remember that. Ethan Ralph will say, oh, wow, he appreciated me so much. Like, he didn't have to pay me, but he appreciated me enough that he extended that olive branch and gave me money. He gave me money because I used my time to help him out. And that's how you build the lines. And then the next time, Phil, you need a favor, Ethan will remember that. And he'll say, you know what? I'm gonna do Phil a favor because he hooked me up last time. And that's how you build working relationships, Phil. But Phil doesn't recognize that. He's just beyond. He's too fucking greedy. All he thinks about is just, no, I have to hoard all this cash. And I'm positive he wanted to hoard all the cash because he knew he was taking 2 days off. You got to pay for that Friday and Saturday. Got to pay for that extra Friday off. He's not going to be able to beg on Friday. But even with that haul, what did he make yesterday? He pulled in about $600. He got $150 on the dot on Adam Fall. And then he made $450 last night. So that's $600. Doesn't matter. He's going to come in on Sunday and act like he hasn't streamed for a week. And he's going to beg like a crackhead. Because that is Phil's life. I'm interested to see how much WWE Champions Phil played last night after Smark Guys. I'm sure he stayed up last night pulling those Hogans. And we'll definitely check out TJ Gamebox's Twitter to see how much time Phil put into it and how much money, of course, because the man is just a pure addict. I guess my final thoughts on this, and I'm going to talk about this on my podcast today, is he was neutered. I don't know if he took something. Again, I don't want to state he did. I don't know. I have no, but it seemed like he may have taken something, either a little bit of alcohol or some medication or something, but he seemed like an extremely neutered person. And the funny thing is, he let two slurs rip. So if you have the F slur on your bingo card, shout out to you. You won. Congratulations. And then I think he also used the R slur once. The F slur was a big one, and he made sure to apologize because he slipped up there. The mask slipped off, but other than that, it was pretty dead. Yeah, he does his wrestling knowledge. I'll give him that. But you know, he tried to be as boring as Phil. And the one other piece of advice, by the way, he took 2 pieces of advice from Doody. One, if you see Jade out there, make sure to give him some attention. Be nice to him. You know, I said be nice to Jade. I said, yo, be nice to him, be respectful. Everyone loves, I told him, I said, everyone in the community loves Jade. He's a really good dude. And people like when guests and so on acknowledge him. So if you see him out there, give him a shout out. He did that. So that was the one thing he did. He gave him a shout out very early on in the stream, so that probably earned him a few points, and then he behaved. And the third thing, I'm sorry, the third thing is, of course, he was gargling Phil's testicles for a while, so he was praising him and trying to make it seem like, yeah, right, the detractors are terrible and so on. So he did a little bit of that. So was it enough to win a spot as a co-host? The only true factor is going to be how much money the other people bring in for Phil. So if he does it with Mersh or whoever next week and he makes $200, then he's out. So the co-host position will be simply determined on who brought Phil the most money, because that's all Phil cares about. Anyway, folks, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I really don't care about the rest of this. See you guys at 10 o'clock.